Hi guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It is me, Steve Hall, and on the other end, Pascal Floor, with the fresh haircut, no doubt.
Yeah. Do you want to guess who made it?
Who made your hair?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to guess Katie.
I mean, she's the only...
I was like, if you're going to get me to guess, I have no idea who your barber is.
Yeah.
I know you used to travel like an hour to go see that person, so I don't know their name though. So yeah, Katie.
I mean, it isn't hard to guess anyway because I have no friends and no one else in my life but my family. So yeah, you guessed correctly, Steve. Wow, what a good job it was.
Now you can get, there's like, because of everything that happened with COVID, you had like mobile barbers who, some people even cut your hair in like the back of like a van, or people like come into your house, come cut your hair, which is super convenient like thing to do. Although they don't clean up after themselves, I don't think, generally.
And
so you have to then clean up.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the lesser evil, isn't it? I mean, especially because you brought up my old barber, which I needed to actually get to like over an hour and then back again over an hour. So just sitting there getting my hair cut was a shorter half of the time frame than actually commuting. And I think I even discussed with him whether it makes sense to do something like this. And apparently in a city like Berlin, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. I could see, though, that in a different city, I don't know. It's just, I don't know why that comes to my mind, but something like New York City, I could potentially see that it's more beneficial there because I could see the rent being just horrendous. If you're then saving the rent and you have such a dense population, I could see that it would make much more sense to offer something like this in a city like New York. Or, for example, London, I don't know.
Yeah, it's weird in London. I don't know. I haven't really noticed this about other cities. Maybe I've never really thought about it till this moment in time. But we have so many barbershops. Like just on Tooting High Street, like there is literally, like you could walk 5 minutes and you'll find another one. You'll find another one. You'll find another one. It's just like, even in Clapham, I remember there being loads. I was just like, and Vauxhall was, it wasn't really the sort of place that had much of that sort of thing. So these are just the three places I've lived in London, by the way, for the listeners. But yeah, Vauxhall didn't really have a high street, so that wasn't such a thing. But yeah, it's just, I don't know, they clearly make good money in business and it makes sense for them to rent it.
It is kind of the same phenomenon. I don't know how it is in London, but at least in Berlin and other German cities, nail salons. It's crazy how many there are around here. And I'm just thinking like, I can't even see that many people want to get their nails done.
There is something, I remember speaking to Charlotte about this. There's something about nail salons and being like a cover for something else.
Not
so
exactly.
good. So I don't think that about barbershops, but nail salons, again, that seems even more niche.
Yeah, so money laundering, kind of, I don't know what else, other criminal activities. But I think that this is also kind of a very much a typical cliche that is just around, I would say. Right. It could be true. I don't know. Maybe there is a rationale for why that cliche and also rumor came up.
It's like on Oxford Street, they've got those like huge shops that are just like American sweets, basically. And just like a bunch of, I don't know, just stuff in there. And it's so super bright and they give you like a bag when you walk in. Anyway, it's super expensive. And I don't really think many people buy anything from those. And again, that's like, what is that? That's some sort of drug cartel going on, isn't it? That's not truly what you're making business from, because I can't see that working. Yeah. On Oxford Street, like the rent must be like just crazy.
Anyway. Yeah, money laundering. That is always the explanation. Also, when it comes to political decisions of new rules and all that kind of things that they are changing then in the constitution, for example, it's always kind of terrorist financing, money laundering, or just against terrorism anyway, which is always kind of a bad excuse to push kind of a new legislation and also rules through, which is ridiculous most of the time. But yeah. We are going down a route that I didn't want to go down.
No. So apart from your haircut, what's new in your land? I know there is something, potentially some unfortunate news that you're going to tell the listeners and me.
Is there? Did I tell you about this?
Well, you did an Instagram post.
Oh,
You were
yeah.
asleep.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering, like, Steve, where the hell do you know this from? But yeah, no, it makes absolute sense. Yeah.
It was public knowledge.
Yeah, I hurt my back. And it's very unfortunate timing because here in 2 days from now, we are actually then leaving for then the winter holiday, snowboarding and all that kind of stuff. And it is actually, so I rarely injure my lower back. I don't know what it is with my lower back, but you know it, right, Steve? The triangle, like knees. Well, it's not really a triangle, but it's kind of knees, hips,
Trifecta.
shoulders, and also low back, right? Kind of that line. That is most of the time that people have some of those things. And for me personally, my lower back has always been rock solid, like rock solid. I could do anything that I wanted. Like also deadlifting, always kind of with a little bit of a rounded back. No issues whatsoever, you know. Not to say that rounding with a rounded low back causes these kind of things, but for me personally, this was just kind of a lower back strain, muscularly speaking. I can definitely tell that it has nothing to do with kind of, I don't know, your spine, L4, L5, which are most of the time the culprits. For me, it was just like a muscular thing. I can definitely feel it, especially when I'm twisting my torso. I can really feel it being kind of quite painful. And it came out of nowhere. It happened on a push day. So I came off the dumbbell bench press and walked over because I wanted to do some kind of other exercise. And then I could already feel it tensing up. And then over the next couple of minutes, it actually got worse and worse. And yeah, ever since then, it was a little bit more painful. So I needed to take additional rest days, needed to take some ibuprofen. Yeah, and ever since yesterday, I'm moving back in training again. Got a push session done. So I switched things around. So initially, I was planning on doing my pull session, but then I just swapped those around so that I did my chest day first. Then today I did my back day, made some alternations and modifications there as well, which it is that we can talk about in a couple of seconds. And then tomorrow, or maybe on Friday, I think I will do it on Friday as the last session before leaving. Then on Saturday morning, I will then do another leg day, which is then also going to be modified though.
That is frustrating. For some reason, I had it in my head you were going skiing the week after I got back, but that doesn't make sense at all for multiple reasons that I'm now thinking about. But that is awful timing. I remember us talking literally on the podcast saying how you wanted to avoid getting any sort of injury. Yeah. And yeah, I'm not going to say it right, the Scheuermann's disease or Scheuermann's disease. That's not part of this. This is completely separate, right?
I mean, it could always be a contributing factor. I wouldn't really rule that out, but I wouldn't really say that this was the underlying issue. My incline is that simply because it's also something that we've discussed last week, I haven't taken a deload in such a long period of time. And because it being a muscular thing, I could just see that it's an overuse kind of injury.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder, because you don't do any movements that you're directly trying to train, like your maybe your erectors, but not your lower like back erector area. Yeah. Like it's just isometrics.
No, absolutely. This is not kind of that we are intentionally targeting that area with certain movements, but especially the low back is involved in so many things. You can especially feel it whenever you have injured your lower back. Then you are especially noticing how many things are indirectly involved in that body part, right?
Yeah.
Even something like, I don't know, when I was doing pressing movements, right? I needed to intentionally flex my spine instead of actually going into an arch.
Yeah.
And this seems kind of straightforward now that you're thinking about it. But you're also thinking like, okay, just a tiny bit of an arch, that's not engaging or activating the musculature big time, but that is enough to actually then cause me a little bit of pain, you know? And then also when it comes to just like other movements, I have to be careful not to kind of twist my torso. Even just sitting and doing this right now, I can feel it kind of on my right side that it's a little bit painful.
And apart from the modifications, and you said you took some, I guess, NSAIDs, you took some ibuprofen or some sort of painkillers. What else? Did you do anything else like rehab-wise, or you just rested it and that's all you really focused on?
Yeah, I thought that it's better to just rest it and just not even touch it at all, because I could fear that it's being quite tender and I didn't really want to aggravate that area or cause any kind of more stress. It was already quite inflamed, I think. That's why I just left it alone. And also when it comes to kind of resting at home, I was trying my very best to not aggravate it, in that I'm kind of bending over. When I'm lying, then I'm really trying to rest and calm down so that it actually catches a break, so to speak.
Was it just one side as well?
It's mostly the right side. Today I could feel, though, that when I was finished with my back session, also there I needed to make some modifications to not go into hyperextension, for example. I couldn't do any kind of single arm work because it just puts too much strain then on that. Yeah, exactly. That's why I did intentionally also the pull-ups, for example. I did a little bit rounded and then coming up. I did chest supported rows with more so flared elbows, so that I'm more so targeting the mid and upper back. And that just worked fine. I think if it's not in the early stages of being injured, I think that you can most of the time still go in there and do something, except for, I don't know, when you have a herniated disc, maybe. I don't know. It's just speculation based on experience and what other people are telling me when they have a herniated disc. And also when you have something like a neck injury, right? When you have a neck injury, nothing goes, honestly. So I was able to do a couple of modifications, be a little bit more aware of how I'm moving. And then it just worked out reasonably fine. But I could also then feel by the end of the workout that my low back area was still a little bit tired. I can't really compare it to anything else or explain it differently.
Yeah, that makes loads of sense. I think that's smart. The thing I always make sure of when I am, like when I had my SI joint issues, which it sounds freakishly similar, but it's definitely a different thing. But SI joint was one on side, like twisting was painful. But when I don't get regularly any lower back issues, but sometimes now and then it will feel tweaked. It will just feel a little bit off. Like I'm like, oh, it's very sensitive if I do that. And it's exactly as you mentioned there, where if you just take extra time to really make sure you're bracing well, you can normally get through lifts and actually be completely fine because you've just really doubled down on your bracing. And then the key for me is after I finish that session, it's not getting worse over time. Like I don't wake up the next morning and be like, oh shit, clearly I shouldn't have trained. It's like, it's actually feeling slightly better and the training isn't making it worse for sure. It could even be making it better.
100%. And this is also a discussion that I had with Katie, because she was like, of course, for an outsider who hasn't really trained as long as we have, it may seem irresponsible then to go in there and still do something, because you could theoretically make it worse, which is also probably driven by maybe recommendations that you see online or you hear from doctors, who then always go down the safe route of saying like, rather rest now. But if you're then speaking to kind of professionals who are very much active around kind of rehab work, most of the people say that it's the worst thing that you can do is just like be sedentary and do nothing at all. Maybe give it some rest in the initial stages or when it occurred, but shortly after, as soon as you can move relatively freely again, get moving and be active and try to always push yourself to I say now in quotation marks, to the limit. So basically what it is that you described, you push yourself, you assess the situation, and as long as it doesn't really get worse, keep on moving forward up to the point where you're then fully recovered again. And that's the way that I also went about this one. Listening to my body. The beauty is also with experience and knowledge, you can often modify things. You also have the ease of mind now to know that even with a lighter load, you can get some heavy sessions in. And this helps so much. And also the thing about lengthened partials, I think this is where lengthened partials can come in very handy, because in the past, I was always concerned like, oh man, kind of half reps and all that kind of stuff, And now I know that this is something that I could be doing. And if full range of motion were to give me kind of pain, hey, limited range of motion or like kind of lengthened partials could actually work quite well even.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it comes back to that many ways to layer a cake sort of analogy of just hypertrophy is just, as long as you go into the gym and you take a muscle close to failure, like you're definitely creating a hypertrophic stimulus as long as you do enough of it. And how you go about that matters so much less in terms of the range of motion you use, the rep range, whatever the modality, these sort of things matter so much less. It's actually interesting as a very small side note. For whatever reason, my left wrist hurts in supination, so I can't do like bicep curls with supinated wrists. But I was doing like a Bayesian curl, and I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do this with a hammer grip or the rope, and do a neutral grip Bayesian curl. I'm like, cool. It doesn't feel quite as good because you don't get that nice stretch that the supination provides. But I was like, it's just like you said, once you've been doing this long enough, you're like, I can still generate a great stimulus, make a tiny tweak to an exercise, whether that be range of motion, like grip width or foot position or pronation, these sort of things. And yeah, it's nice knowing that you can do that and still work around pain and injury. And no, actually, it's not you just being a stubborn asshole bodybuilder. It's also likely to help recovery because, and it's just like you said, meet that limit. Don't push through pain, but meet that tolerable limit. And then kind of it will keep moving up over the weeks until it's passed, probably. Exactly.
And also the beauty is that you're now in a position where not only can you use alternative exercises, you also kind of listen to you know your body well enough to differentiate between kind of very severe injuries and just kind of muscular injuries that you know will fade away in a very short period of time. I can't describe it any differently. It's just because I am always kind of under the impression that you should be quite skeptical when it comes to listening to your body. But at the same time, the longer you've been doing something for, and the more I think that you can trust those kind of signals that you're receiving. When you're, let's just say something like kind of, this from Gen Pop people who are very much hungry on a diet. But this is the signal of my body that that I need chocolate, right? No, that's not what it is. It's just a normal mechanism to save you from starvation, But that doesn't mean that your body needs chocolate, such as other people are rightly putting so. This is a situation where I would then question the signals that your body is sending you. However, if you've been training for let's take someone who's an athlete since 20 years, and I'm not talking about bodybuilding, but like a serious professional athlete, I think that he has a very good grasp of when something is off and he needs maybe even a rest day or not.
Yeah, it's so well said. I was trying to think of a good analogy here, and I was like, Pascal likes his financial analogies. I was like, it's like that trader watching the stock market. He sees a fluctuation, and the newbie would be like, holy shit, I need to sell now, or whatever it is. Whereas the experienced person could be like, hey, that's a minor fluctuation. I know we're going to be able to see this through. It's nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and I think totally.
That's where what you said, as the newer lifter you are, the less you should listen to your body probably, because even DOMS is scary. It's hard for some people to differentiate between like a positive stretch and like good pain that's like causing through strain, through your training versus bad pain, like, oh, it's irritating my wrist or my elbow joint. Whereas when you're more advanced, you've got more experience, that's when listening to your body is almost better than just following the textbook. And actually you can now make 100%. Individualized modifications to make things even better.
Yeah. I was a little bit unfortunately in that position where I wanted to actually get the training sessions done before then the holiday. And also knowing that it would probably be better now to take some rest. So I was implementing more rest days then and still making it happen. In a normal case, I would have just taken a deload, not training for like a couple of days and then starting the new mesocycle. And the good thing is though, that there is a gym just right around our hotel, which is also kind of more like an old school bodybuilding type of gym, which is quite funny because that the small town that we're in is very much just known for kind of winter sport and also kind of hiking, that they have kind of that old school bodybuilding gym is quite funny. And I'm even considering taking kind of maybe 2 upper body days in that gym, simply because breakfast is first at 7:30. And you know me, Steve, I'm getting up very early in the morning and I'm thinking like, hey, I could easily, and they are opening at 6, the gym. So I'm thinking like, breakfast 7:30. We are not hitting the slope before that anyway, so I could actually get a training session in for like an hour, be still there on time for them breakfast. So why not? Maybe I'll do that.
Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We created the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
This is similar to me with the cruise because I know Charlotte, it's like holidays in general when I go with Charlotte. She wakes up later than me. I wake up, I would say I wake up at a very like average normal person time, like 7:30 a.m. She's up a good couple of hours later than that at least. Maybe she'll be better on holiday. Or I shouldn't say better, it's just different. Let's put it that way. Closer to my time, closer to normal. And yeah, so I know I'll be able to get a pump on in that. I don't know what the cruise gym is going to look like. I'm kind of excited though. It's kind of, part of me is excited just to train in like a different environment and like it's going to challenge me to just, again, like I said before, like there's so many ways to get a hypertrophic response. Like I've got cables, some light dumbbells. Like it's going to be kind of fun to just get in there and do something a bit different. And in some ways, I could see, because it's such a change in modality for me, I don't think yours will be because it's going to be a typical gym basically. But it could be a bit of like a deload to some kind of ways that I've been training, and it could set me up quite nicely, I could imagine. But I'll be forced into some days off just before it because of traveling and then the days after it. So
for how long are you then away, Steve? Exactly, like 10 days, or how long is a typical cruise?
I think it's 9 nights. So I leave on a Thursday morning and then get back on a Monday morning, basically. So yeah, it's like 10 days basically, which is about, if it was any longer than that, I'd start stressing, mostly work-wise. Otherwise, I can make 10 days work, which has been a good revelation for me. I haven't actually done it yet, but I think it will go okay. I just have to condense my week, both the front end and back end. Although the week we get back isn't so bad because I'm back on Monday. I'll be able to work probably half that day at least. So it'll probably be a fairly normal week on the week I'm back.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you already know the program on that cruise, or do you guys have things scheduled?
You can look at, there's actually a Facebook group for our cruise. And there's like
Facebook group.
Yeah, I mean, because the type of people that go on a cruise normally, I don't know, 50 plus. So it's good for that sort of age group because they don't have to worry about anything. It's all just set up for them very nicely. Anyway, and those are the sort of people that are on Facebook a lot of the time. And there's people like every day there's like a countdown. It's like 7 days out or whatever it is, you know.
Steve, I'm pretty much clueless when it comes to cruises. Is it that all of the passengers start at one place, or is it every single time that you are stopping at a destination that some people get off and some people get on the cruise?
I think for this cruise, it's just like a short trip. So it's not one where people come on and off, I don't think. But there was like a year-long cruise. And you could like pay for the whole year to be on this cruise ship. And then there was like options to get like months on there or whatever, like blocks of time on there. It's kind of crazy. But because this one's short,
would it be to have something like this?
I haven't looked into it actually, but they theoretically, like, they're providing you, like, it's like you're paying for like a hotel or whatever. It's like everything
alongside with food and all that kind of stuff. You know, that's why I'm thinking, like, is it maybe even cheaper for some people to live on a cruise than live on their own in a specific city or so?
Yeah, I don't know. Especially, no, not that they're caring for you, but there's people on the cruise ship who would probably like help you with things. Like if you're an elderly person, like help you, whatever. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, this one, they already have, there's like an app and it tells you like every day where we're stopping and like you can book in activities at each port and whatever. You can book in activities on the ship, like there's yoga and like, I don't know, fucking all sorts of shit on the ship. Like,
are you planning on doing yoga?
No. You have to pay for virtually everything though. It's become like EasyJet.
Oh, really?
You know where EasyJet like charge for everything. Like Wi-Fi is on the ship, but you have to pay $15 a day for Wi-Fi.
What the fuck? Are we living in the year 2000 or what? Where
I know.
Kind of a luxury item?
It's madness.
Well,
Because
that would piss me off big time, you know, when there's not internet available that is either slow and free, or when it's normal and expensive, or maybe both at the same time, like slow and expensive.
Yeah, my worry is it's not even going to be very good. So I don't know if I'm going to pay for it every day, but I might get it some days because the people looking after Ada, they're like, have you on a WhatsApp group and they're messaging you every day being like, hey, this is what we got up to today. And they send you a picture of Ada, like, don't know, being a shit probably. So yeah, I like the idea also of being disconnected. That's the only thing, because ever since I've started being an online coach, I almost posted on social media. I probably have posted on some form of social media every day since like a decade now. That's kind of crazy. So in some ways, I'm looking forward to a bit of disconnection and like forcing myself to be disconnected. And I think that would be healthy for me, because I've spoken to Greg Potter about this several times, where he's like, you should every now and then like disconnect from social media, take some time off. I never have. He's like, that would be really good for just your mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand where he's coming from. But I could also, I can see the dilemma for you, because this is a big integral part of the business. I don't know. It's like shutting down the business for just like 10 days, where in some industries that's more than normal. You know, if you're, I don't know, cleaning service. All right, we are taking holiday. Well, I don't know, a doctor's clinic or so, right?
Yeah.
Holiday for like 7 days. Totally fine. You know, if you need a doctor, then here's an address of a different one. But for you, I think it's hard. It's hard.
I think I'll still post a bit, because you'll get, I guess, Wi-Fi at some of the ports, and like there'll be some cafes I can get a hold of. Because I think even sharing some of the trip is like, that won't feel like work, but it will also benefit like the business in some way, because it will still keep the social media running. People, I think, will be interested to see what's going on, and I can post some of, I don't know, my workouts in that in whatever the cruise setup gym has. But I think just having the internet less is a win for me. Like, just even when I'm on holiday, I always am on it less than I normally would be. But particularly this, when I'm literally isolated and away from the ability to connect, I think will be good. So yeah, that'll be, I'm actually looking, that makes me nervous, but also it's like, well, if I'm worried about it, I can always pay $15. You'll hate this even more, Pascal. You have to pay for every device. So you don't get like access, like I can't give Charlotte access to my Wi-Fi code. She has to pay for it. And if you have a laptop, you have to pay for another.
You know,
like,
that meme where that guy is just like looking like this, totally baffled?
This
is me just now. I am mind blown by the fact that we are living in 2024 and you have to pay like $15 for kind of Wi-Fi access, and you can only use one device. This is crazy to me, honestly, per day. I mean, if you want to use it each and every single day, it would even make more sense to get a device that...
an eSIM or something.
Yeah, something like this.
Yeah, I have looked into that. The problem with those is when you're in the middle of the ocean or whatever, you can't guarantee that it's going to have any connectivity.
I don't know, something like Starlink device for kind of when you're out in the woods or something like this.
Yeah. So, but anyway, it's fine. It's I am in the fortunate position that I'm not having to pay for the cruise in for itself. So that makes it little things like that less annoying, because I'm like, hey, come on, Steve. Like, that's a minor thing to complain about.
Steve, now that we've talked about kind of my low back issues for the time being, and you brought up kind of the SI joint issue that you had just recently, I wanted to ask you, how is it? Is it better? Has it cleared? Is it still present and you have simply not talked about it?
I'm laughing because it completely vanished.
All right.
It came out of nowhere. That, like I told you, I didn't even train the day before it occurred. I woke up in the morning. I was like, what the fuck have I done? I had my typical hypochondriac response of like, oh dear, what is this? And I think I trained that day and it was like manageable, but it just got exponentially better day after day. And about a week after it had vanished to the point where I don't know when it was, maybe a month ago now. I can't even tell you that I have any issues there at all. So the only niggle I've got at the moment is that wrist, is my left wrist. Otherwise, everything, touch wood, left wrist, and it kind of comes through to the elbow a little bit, but not too bad. Everything else is in a good position, which is I'm very thankful for. So no, it just, with me, and this comes back to that experience, that was very rare. Like, I've not had that sort of pain before, so it did kind of worry me. But most like little niggles and tweaks like that, I know they're just going to pass. Like, they're just like a little bit of a quirk that the body has, and it's going to work itself out.
I think it's a very, very valuable insight here that you're sharing. It's something that I wanted to touch on as well, that often I know that if I'm going to make some modifications, these things will pass now. Whereas in the past, I was always getting massively worried and didn't even know what to do in a situation like this, where it was like I was concerned that I massively injured or damaged something to the extent that it can't be reversed or it won't get better and fixed by itself. But just to give you a different example, whenever I'm doing kind of chest press on a chest press machine and I'm using too much loading and I'm doing it too often, my left shoulder is actually getting a little bit of discomfort. But this is only when I use it too often, too frequently, this machine. And I know this. Secondary also, I've been talking about kind of the left knee issues that I've experienced for a long period of time. And I've taken out the leg press, that shitty leg press that we have in our gym. And I've been doing this since a long time, trying to modify it, trying to make it happen for me. And for a very long time, I was always thinking like, man, what's going on here with my knee? What's going on with my hip? It's simply not getting any kind of better. And it turned out that it was probably also contributing, at least from the leg press. And I think that there are often culprits and reasons for why you're experiencing those things. And especially kind of gym equipment is often the reason for it.
Yeah, I actually have had this with clients. I think even recently, I can't remember the specifics of it, but I have just more and more been like, hey, don't be stubborn about keeping something in if it's not giving you the feedback that you want it to. Especially for my more advanced clients, where it's like, hey, you know yourself, if you're doing 4 sets of this and like the SFR is shoddy, do not keep doing it, because if you're doing 4 sets and you're bare shoddy, yeah, I was going to say shitty, but
Amazing.
Shoddy is that might just be a British thing. Shoddy stimulus, and like it's fatiguing you, it's feeling in your joints and connective tissue. Swap it out, god damn it! Like, it's not worth pursuing. But I totally feel you with being stubborn, especially if like a leg press, like you want the leg press to be good because you know how good leg press can be.
Not only that, especially if you have limited equipment, then you're thinking like, man, I can't really rule that one out either, because I only have then 4 other options to play with or something like this, you know, whereas then something like a leg extensions is a kind of different kind of stimulus for then the quads. And then other than that, what else do I have? Smith machine squats. My gym doesn't even have a hack squat machine. Doesn't really have a belt squat. No pendulum.
No belt squat.
Exactly. And this is kind of, at some point, you're just like, you want to make it work. And it's kind of that ignorant fact of like, I don't know. I'm always bringing up the example with the serial killer, and the only person who's living in denial is the mom, who thinks like, no, my son can't ever do this, can't hurt a fly. And everyone else knows that he killed like 20 people or something like that. It's the same kind of relationship that I have with some certain gym equipment.
So are you doing Smith squats?
Yes.
And like a Bulgarian split squat or a lunge pattern instead now?
Bulgarian split squats.
Yeah.
Everyone knows and everyone can feel me on these. Right? Every single time I'm approaching a set of Bulgarian split squats as the main mover, I'm thinking, I'm also there living in denial of like, I don't want this. Please send me a signal of making it happen so that we have a different machine here, because they are so painful, especially as the first mover. And it's funny because going to failure on something but like Bulgarian split squats is a little bit of a different kind of beast. It's not, I don't know how to explain it, Steve, but it's never like I'm completely failing or where I know, okay, I can't really do the next rep. It's more like the leg is just getting very, very tired.
Yeah, it is a bit of a weird one because it's single leg, but there's a fair bit, even if you do it in the Smith machine, there's a fair bit of a stability challenge still doing it single leg. So you kind of, as you approach failure, like you almost can't feel everything right. Like the quad just feels like everything kind of feels a little bit numb, at least from memory of doing it. And you're like, and you're like balance is going a little bit. And so it's still like you're taking it very close to failure, but it's not the same as having the stability of a Smith squat or even something where the pelvis is supported, like a hack squat, and hitting failure on that. Like, it's like, yeah, I mean, that's, you're probably taking your quads even closer to true momentary muscular failure. So I totally get what you mean with the Smith, with the Bulgarian squat.
What I've also find to be the case with Bulgarian split squats is so when I introduced them, I really have felt my lungs in a way that I haven't felt them in a very, very long time. It's crazy what Bulgarian split squats do to you when they are heavy and exhaustive. Kind of that breather where it's kind of painful even in the lungs. As if you've been kind of sprinting and you haven't sprinted in, I don't know, 10 years and you're fat and all that kind of stuff, you know? It's kind of like burning, and when the weather and the air is cold outside, it's kind of like a stinging sensation in the lungs. That's what I've experienced the first time that I've reintroduced them. And the way that I do those is on a dipping bar. So the dipping bar is right in front of me. Then underneath me, I have two step ups. So one is a little bit higher than the other one for the leg that is actually behind me. Yep. And then I position myself in a way that the dumbbell is always still having kind of room to move freely. I can really go all the way down, full knee flexion. Kind of my ass is basically hitting my calves, and not just the calves, but Achilles tendon.
The heel, yeah.
The heel. And then coming up again. And they are killer. And you're taking a little bit out this balancing aspect out of the occasion when you're holding on to something else.
Yeah, that's exactly how I used to do them when I've done them at Yorkies. Previously, I was doing them in the rack and like holding and having, again, do you do it contralaterally, or do you do it with the working leg is the same as the arm you hold the dumbbell in? So
funny enough, I was playing around with it because at one point I did do them in a teabagging style where I was having and holding the dumbbell in a way that it's in between my legs. And I found this to not really. So basically, let's say my left leg
I see.
is the working leg that I was holding
it kind
onto.
Of contralaterally.
Yeah, exactly. Holding onto in the right hand, but actually having it under my center of gravity, basically.
Yeah.
But it never really felt great. So I was actually then twisting and turning it to the outside. So it's kind of the same side then.
Yeah.
Outside. And what I've also figured for myself is instead of having my leg that is facing, or that is behind me, to the outside, I actually have it right behind me, which adds a little bit more stability, actually, contrary to what it is that you believe to be the case, actually, because most people actually take a step outwards, which is quite helpful for walking lunges if you are having like this pattern or like this and this, right? So always going to the outside a little bit more, so instead of just going in a straight line. But for Bulgarian split squats, I've felt at least for me personally, when I'm holding on to something, have the dumbbell on the outside, I need to have the leg right behind me so that I can get into a proper position and really, really get that leg into a full flexion.
You perform it exactly how I would perform it.
Already?
Yeah, I do exactly the same setup. The problem I found, I don't know, what rep range are you shooting for? You shooting higher, or is it kind of heavy still?
10 to 15, because everything beyond 15, it really gets exhaustive for kind of my lungs as well. And I also feel that it's not as productive, but everything below 10 is a little bit too heavy, and I can't really get fully into that. I can go into that flexion, but coming out of it doesn't really feel as productive. I have the feeling that then my hips and my glutes and everything else wants to support it. Whereas when you are trying to be in that sweet zone of 10 to 15, aiming for it, it actually works quite well. What about you?
I'm imagining that is the same range I was working in for sure. And I think I'm interested to try higher reps and see how it goes. Lower, I don't see that being productive, to be honest. Just the stability of it, like it's just not set up well for being a heavy movement, especially because of like even, and this is what I was going to ask, when I'm doing it in the 10 to 15 rep range, I think I was using, I don't know, it was definitely 40 plus kilos in one arm, because especially if you're doing it in one hand, then it's quite a lot of weight that you have to hold on to. I'm sure you use like a VersaGrip or a strap to hold that weight.
Exactly.
Are you doing like quite heavy as well?
Yeah. So I needed to, of course, work my way up, because at first it has been such a long time. Didn't really know what weights to pick. And now I'm already using kind of 40 kilograms. And I think that I could even go heavier than this. But then you're running quickly into the issue of like other body parts wanting to kick in. And what it is that I'm just doing is kind of like, all right, I feel like I could go heavier, but as soon as I do, it feels unproductive. So either you're kind of slowing things down on the eccentric, for example, or you're taking a little bit of a longer pause at the bottom, or you're trying intentionally to stay even more upright. So things to perfectionize the technique before you're then making the leap to the next weight.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I just found after a while of doing it, I was using a weight that started to really systemically tax me. So like, it would be like I do one leg, I'd be like, I'm as fatigued as if I did a set of leg press, but I have to do another leg.
Yeah.
So the SFR rapidly dropped off for me. And I think I maybe made the mistake of focusing too much on load progression on it. And I don't know if you find this, Pascal, but whenever I do it, I find my glutes always kick in. Like I very regularly will get sore the next day in my glutes.
That's not the case for me, luckily.
Oh, that's good.
Because I really want to focus and emphasize the quads. But also, to be fair though, I'm only doing 2 sets on those, and then I'm moving over to Smith machine squats and then leg extensions. So it's kind of a little bit more flopping around between exercises, but it's a mental thing and also just an exhaustive kind of thing, not doing kind of 3 or 4 sets. Just imagine doing like 4 sets of Bulgarian split squats. That would mean like 8 sets in total. No.
I think I might try them again at some point though, even though I have a good selection at my gym. Like I have everything you mentioned, the pendulum, the belt squat, although our hack squat has been broken. It's been over a month, maybe 2 months now.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. Did I tell you about what happened?
No.
So one of the shoulder pads is basically ripping off. So I did all my sets on it and I didn't feel strong. It felt a little bit off. And I think I was in the last week of my meso anyway. So I just thought maybe it's just fatigue catching up to me. And when I got off after my last set, I looked at it and I was like, that shoulder pad is like up compared to the other one. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's tearing off.
Oh, shit.
If that had like ripped off during a set, I would have been, I don't know, KO. It would have been
Have you ever
bad
had
for me.
Steve, that a machine broke while you've been using it?
I don't think I have actually. No, have you?
No.
I'm assuming you haven't. Okay.
No, because sometimes you see the machines around that need to be fixed. For example, now with the hack squat as well. And I'm always wondering, like, what would happen if you are underneath that machine and it's kind of, I don't know, breaking.
Final destination style.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God. I regularly have this when I get underneath the leg press, partly because of what happened on the hack squat, but also because this leg press I know is old. I'm just like, what happens if, I don't know, it just, I don't know, broke off as I'm sat under here, like something just broke and it just comes down and crushes me. I'm just like, every time. It probably doesn't help my anxiety surrounding the leg press, which is already a hard movement.
Cool. Then guys, we leave it here already, simply because we are about to record the second episode, because Steve and I, we are both going on holiday right after another. And yeah, so thank you very much, though, as always, for listening, tuning in. Leave a comment in the comment section below if you have any kind of something to say about the things that we've discussed, about injuries, for example, about the love and hate relationship with Bulgarian Split Squats, whether a machine broke for you, and all that kind of stuff. We are always interested about your comments. We do read them, all of them, believe me. We may not always comment on every single one of them, but we do read them, and we always appreciate that you're commenting.
I'm always a little bit, I do read the comments. I'm just sometimes behind because it's just a lot that happens with, like we said, social media and everything. But I always find like, oh, I've got some time. Let's go do the comments. What I need to do is schedule it into my week, which I've not done yet.
That's true.
I just need to like put a time in my calendar. I'm like, hey, this is an hour to go to YouTube comments. Whereas it's normally like, oh, I have an hour free. Oh, I'm on YouTube. Oh, there's some comments. Let's go in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, we do read them and we appreciate them. So thank you guys.
Cheers, guys.
Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality and we know how to do it. And we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.